I've got the eggs, putting them in a cold water bath after being in on the pan. That one, oops, fell out. These pans are really good for staying warm, so it takes a bit to get them cool. That's why I dumped it. They have a multi-core bottom. It's a permanent multi-core waterless cookware is what these are called. I actually had to look up the handle for Mom's fry pan for. I'm gonna probably get one ordered. I'm gonna put some water over the ice, and I'll add the eggs. Having an ice water bath for those eggs. My toast just popped up for the second time, so I'm gonna have breakfast. So we've got my toast, and I dug through Mom's fridge for my homemade peanut butter that I'm going to put on my toast to go with my egg. Well, I've been tasting the broth on this soup, and it's tasted wonderful. But the thing I noticed is I'm not getting the bean starch out, and so I actually tested a bean. Mom requested I do that, and it was still not tender. So I've actually put it in the Dutch oven. It's on the stove. I'm going to let it cook for a while. I'm going to do the dishes. Mom said not to leave it on if I'm not going to watch it. And I hadn't planned to. I did mention before not liking the stove for that. But the slow cooker just wasn't quite enough to get those beans with putting it down to low overnight, I guess. But I'm going to do the dishes and watch this while I do that. It's on medium high. High is down here. It is just below the halfway for the double inside and outside burner. But we're going to watch this. 10:43. I haven't adjusted the heat, and all I've done is run half a sink full of water. I still don't have this done, and I already had to come over and stir this. I'm going to turn this down a little. I want it warm, but I don't want it as hard of a boil as it is. I actually heard it, and that's why I came over to look at it. Well, I've added the beans. Put the beans on the stove. This stove, I've turned it down at least 20%. It's still boiling. However, the beans are plumping up. They're looking much better. They're taking on that ecru look from instead of the white. You're actually seeing the color of the bean through the skin. I'm going to let it keep cooking. I still haven't got much of the dishes done, less than half washed. But I'm going to leave this going and test a bean here in another maybe 15-30 minutes. And then just probably turn it down low and leave it on the stove. I keep remembering, I read a book, and I don't remember much about the book. It was a Western. I like Westerns. And one of the things that I remember about the book is that they were in northwestern Colorado, in the mountains. And that the guy said there's nothing like having a pot of navies on the stove. And I would assume that it was meaning navy beans on a... Actually, I know it was navy beans. And I'm assuming that it was on a wood stove since they were riding horses, not driving cars. It was a Western, not a modern Western. But I'm going to let that cook, get back to the dishes. I did turn it down, like I said, about 20%, and still got a good rolling... a good boil, at least. Mom and I were just talking about how much she hates this stove. She had it put in...
I have a lot of hate.
She had it put in when she did the kitchen, and it matches the microwave and the fridge that she got. Or actually, she got the stove and the microwave to match the fridge. But she says she has a love-hate relationship with it.
I like to clean the top.
The top is a real pain, and she likes cleaning it. But the thing is that ever since the first time we used it, there have been stuff that can't be cleaned off the top. We were just talking about how to, the fact that if you turn the heat down, it never really goes down. And I said, well, if you actually take your pan off and turn it down and wait a few minutes, it will. We're just too used to growing up with gas. I had gas. Her mom had gas. No, her mom had electric. But all my life growing up, Mom had gas. And it's just, you turn the gas down, the heat goes down. There's no, you can control it so much easier. It's just Mom got this because the house isn't plumbed for gas. And so she got this. But this is still boiling, and she turned it down another 10% after the 20% that I had it down. But the beans are looking better. But it's actually cooking off the liquid as well as the beans absorbing the liquid. I may have to add more. But now it's actually starting to look like that starch is coming out into the water from the beans. It's actually getting hot enough to do that.
Get a nice spoonful this way. So pretty.
And they are looking good. 8 minutes ago I turned this back up and put the lid on, let it boil, and the beans still aren't quite soft, although it's helping. I took it off the heat for about a minute and turned the heat back down that 30 or 35, 40%, and it's still just not cooling down. I'm going to leave this on the stove. I'm just going to, I think, pull it off the burner for a longer time so that I can cool the burner more, because I don't want it boiling like that. I just want heat at this point. The beans are still firm. They're not tender yet, although they're picking up the flavor more of the liquid. I may have to add more liquid because it's actually cooking down considerably, being on this higher heat. And again, it's coming down to both of us are complaining about her stove. But I'm moving that off that burner, turning that down to just above low. I'll give that a couple minutes, and then I'll, actually I want this to cool as well, and then I'll put it back on, the lid back on, and put it back on the heat. But yeah, really not happy with that. Well, let's make it glow. That burner. Thanks for watching Perhaps Cooking. Feel free to share, give me a thumbs up, or subscribe.